So I'm back, and this time we have a different sort of a control deck. It is a Grixis control deck. That's right, it's control without Teferi. So yeah, the deck is pretty cool. Pretty consistent mana base. You are a 3-color deck, so sometimes you run into a little bit of a stumble color-wise, but for the most part, I've liked it. And we have a bit of a surveil theme. So we've got Thought Erasure, which is a really nice discard spell. It's basically a 2-mana Thought Tease. You're not losing any life. And yeah, I mean, being able to know what's in your opponent's hand and to be able to pick and choose what to take. I've been really impressed with having this as a turn 2 play in this format. Moment of Craving, pretty good removal spell, especially against aggro. And then we've got Disinformation Campaign, which is a really nice payoff card for having cards like Thought Erasure and Sinister Sabotage and Dream Eater. There's a lot of synergy here with the campaign. You can play it, cast it, get some card advantage, and then you pick it back up. And so this deck can really pick apart the opponent's hand. And with Nicol Bolas as well, yep, don't forget about that one. It's still a powerhouse in Standard. And we've got a lot of discards, so beyond the first few plays our opponent will play in a game, normally their hand is going to be empty pretty quickly. Vraska's Contempt, still a very strong removal spell. Exile is important, and dealing with Planeswalkers is nice. We've got a couple of 1-ofs in the Golden Demise and the Ritual of Soot for those go-wide decks. Chemister's Insight, we've got some other card advantage, so we don't need to be playing that many copies of this. The Eldest Reborn is a nice removal spell / just a great card. I've always liked the Eldest Reborn and what it's capable of doing. Doom Whisperer, just a powerhouse from Guilds of Ravnica. We've seen how it can filter your draws very nicely. And then Ral Izzet, just a nice Planeswalker value card. Discovery. We usually cast the Discovery part here. And then Dream Eater. Dream Eater is a card that people don't really play around, and it is a 6-mana way of dealing with an opposing threat. Then you get to set up your draws so that everything is going to be running smoothly. And yeah, it's quite a nice card. So there's a lot. These are just all really strong cards on their own, but there's also synergy to go along with it. And I found that the late game is very powerful. Thief of Sanity out of the board. This card is just amazing. If you're able to play it and hit your opponent with it a couple times, the game is normally just about over at that point. Like, being able to steal some of the best cards from the top of your opponent's deck and then cast them, it turns out is just amazing to have the ability to do that in a deck. We've got a lot of stuff for the other control decks, like the Duresses, the Counterspells, the Bloodfast, and the Angrath. And then Ritual of Soot, again, for those really aggressive decks. There's token decks in the format. There's a lot of stuff a lot of matchups where you're going to want the Ritual of Soot. So make sure to stay tuned for the games, because I'll tell you, we've got Niv Mizzets on both sides of the battlefield. There's a lot of cool stuff that's going to be going on in the games. And yeah, the deck interacts with the opponent in a variety of different ways. So it's something that I'm excited about going forward in the Standard format. So, yep, it looks like we're going to be joining our opponent on a trip to Mulligan Town. And we're on 6, and this is not a particularly good 6. Noticeably only 1 land to work with. Mulligan one more time. I think this is better because we have 2 lands. And I'm going to bottom that Vraska's Contempt. We really are looking to Chemister's Insight on turn 4 optimally. Thought Erasure is not a bad pickup, but since our opponent has that turn 1 Llanowar Elves, we may want to deal with that first. Yeah, I think that's the play, especially having drawn a land for next turn. Let's take a look at what our opponent's working with. Okay, just lands and this Banefire that we're gonna grab. I'm gonna put that swamp on top. It's not the perfect land, but it allows us to cast Chemister's Insight. And it looks like our opponent's draw is pretty bad. Ours isn't great. It's actually not a card we really want to be discarding to this Chemister's Insight. I think I'm going to pitch the swamp. Rewarded! We have our mana, and that's why I did it main phase, by the way, because we could draw a tap land like the Memorial that we wanted to play on our turn. It looks better when it actually happens. I think we play Nicol Bolas. We can actually just transform it on the next turn. Oh, Crawl Harpooner. That is a good answer. Well, we don't have anything we super want to be bouncing with the Dream Eater, but maybe our opponent will play something? No? I think we still run one out there. Get to Surveil. Ooh, that's a lot of great stuff. I think we want all of this stuff. And it looks like our opponent is just going to concede that game. So, green-red stuff. Our opponent didn't have a great draw there. I think we board in Disdainful Strokes. Ritual of Soot. The Eldest Reborn. These cards seem pretty reasonable. I don't think we want Golden Demise. Nicol Bolas. We're kind of worried about Nullhide Pharax, being that we have discard in our deck that doesn't interact well with it. So I'm going to board in some of the Thief of Sanities. They are vulnerable to cards like the Crawl Harpooner. Ritual of Soot, the Eldest Reborn, sure. Yeah. Maybe we only want 2 Eldest Reborns. They're not. They can be very good, but they're situational. So yeah, gonna go with this. And I think we boarded down to 2 Nicol Bolas. It's a top-heavy hand on the draw, which sucks, but I'm going to keep it. We have the Ritual of Soot, so depending on what our opponent's draw is, that could bail us out if we start out behind. But yeah, it's just going to depend what types of threats our opponent commits to the battlefield. A little bit late to the party, that Llanowar Elves. Well, we drew Thought Erasure, so I think we want to take a look, see what our opponent's working with. And here we go. This is some good stuff. Treasure Map, Vinemare, Experimental Frenzy, and Banefire. That's a good hand. That is problematic. Those cards are problematic for us. Experimental Frenzy is not easy to beat because of the card advantage. The Vinemare, though, we have really no way to deal with it at all. So I'm just going to take that. I think we pretty much have to keep a land on top. The hope is that the Experimental Frenzy will not beat us, and that, yeah, I mean, it's a very good card in the matchup, for sure, so our opponent may just opt to play it this turn. Looks like they're going to go with the Treasure Map, also a good card advantage engine. Really can't go wrong with those two choices. And we're forced to take a turn off here. Not what we want to be doing, certainly. Now, if we were on the play this game, very different story because we'd already have Nicol Bolas on the battlefield. But, as is, we wait. There's the Scry. So our opponent's looking to get this treasure map going ASAP. Yep, that's a good magic card. I have no idea why our opponent did not attack there with the Llanowar Elves, by the way. So, a few different options here. One is Nicol Bolas. One is Ritual of Soot to get rid of both of these. Not really an easy decision, actually, this turn. I think we want to go Ritual of Soot. Although if we go Nicol Bolas, we get either the Experimental Frenzy or the Banefire out of our opponent's hand, which is pretty nice. Kind of talking myself into that. Okay, sure. We'll go Nicol Bolas. Not positive on this play, by the way. We got the Banefire. Now our opponent just has that Experimental Frenzy. It looks like the treasure map is about to flip. And I don't... Well, if we block, we get to play... We get to play Ral Izzet Viceroy. Next turn... rather than the Ritual of Soot. So that's kind of valuable. But it also means that we're not starting to clock our opponent with our Nicol Bolas. But we do have another Nicol Bolas, which makes it a pretty close decision. I'm going to take it. And just go for this Ritual of Soot. Likely our opponent's going to be able to do some pretty impressive stuff this turn. Untapping with Experimental Frenzy tends to do that. Yep, there's a Wayward Sword Tooth. And the treasure map can start drawing our opponent cards if they want to do that. Oh, there's Carnage Tyrant also. Not sure we're coming back from this one, unfortunately. Yeah. All right, we're going to game 3 here. I'm not seeing a way out. So I think we do want the third Eldest Reborn, considering the threats we've seen. If we can force our opponent to sacrifice one of their big creatures, that could be really nice. Thief of Sanity is also good. I think more reliable than a card like Disinformation Campaign. I'm going to cut a Moment of Craving, being that we're on the play. And really the best target we've seen has been a Llanowar Elves. Yep, I think we definitely keep this. Thief of Sanity is a card that can get out of hand. It just kind of depends if our opponent has the answer for it. Of course, the turn 1 Llanowar Elves. I wouldn't expect anything less. So we're going to use the Discovery here to set up our draws. I think we want one of these lands, but not both. It may have been we actually wanted the Sulphur Falls. That was probably true. Instead of the Dragon Skull Summit. Okay. Well, I think we're dropping Thief of Sanity for sure. There's definitely answers that our opponent could have for it. We saw Banefire and Krull Harpooner. Those are the two cards I think that would be most likely to answer it if our opponent has an answer. If they don't, this card can do some serious work, though. Yep, there's the Crawl Harpooner. So that's going to effectively trade with our Thief. Well, seems like we just go for Nicol Bolas here. Get that threat onto the battlefield. And now, kind of thinking, all right, maybe we should have just topped both those lands, as it turns out. But of course, we didn't know what we were going to draw. All right, well, if our opponent's just passing, that's pretty good news. We can hold up Sinister Sabotage. So I'm just going to do that. Seems like a good card to be countering. And this time we keep that Sulphur Falls on top, for sure. And I do think we take this opportunity to get the Doom Whisperer into play. We could Thought Erasure, but it's just so inefficient of a play. And Doom Whisperer, if not answered, is just a pretty absurd creature. So let's see what our opponent can muster up here. Could be a Banefire. Nope, it's a Carnage Tyrant. We have the option of paying life to use the Doom Whisperer. I don't think I'm going to. We found Steam Vents. Well, we're kind of worried about Banefire as a card that our opponent could potentially have. We could look at our opponent's hand with the Thought Erasure. Certainly that's an option. Pretty close decision that we're making. We could also leave the Doom Whisperer back to potentially trade with this Carnage Tyrant. That's an interesting idea. We just kind of don't want to die on the next turn. I think I'm going to go for leaving back the Doom Whisperer on defense. We'll see how that goes. Since we shocked off the Steam Vents, our opponent probably knows we have a Dream Eater here. Okay, yeah, our opponent actually did have a Banefire, and they're going to use it on the Doom Whisperer. But now we get to flash in our Dream Eater and our opponent's at 8. So this could actually just work perfectly. And I believe it is. I believe we set this up so that our opponent is now dead. Now they could have like a Lightning Strike, I guess. That would be like the one card that would blow us out, but it looks like they don't. So yeah, our opponent is going to be on the play, but we for sure want to keep this with our turn 2 Thought Erasure. That's going to hopefully set us up pretty well. Interesting that our opponent's shocking off of Steam Vents to start. We drew a Disinformation campaign, which is very good in the control matchups. So hopefully we can set that one up. First step, though, is to try to resolve this Thought Erasure. If our opponent has a counterspell, they're pretty likely to just go ahead and use it right now. Okay, well, we take the opt. Our opponent just has a bunch of lands in hand, so that's not that scary. Don't think we need that swamp at the moment. So we know about, well, 4 lands, 3 mountains, and a Sulfur Balls. Could be Radical. Nope, it's a Chart, of course, this time. So perfect opportunity to resolve our Disinformation campaign. Hopefully we can find a way to get it back to our hand. And our opponent has discarded some of these mountains, so there's an electrostatic field. Interesting. We could kill it if we really wanted to. Not too concerned about it at this very moment. I think while our opponent's tapped out, I'm going to resolve this Chemister's Insight. Just in case our opponent drew into something like Syncopate. Now those 3 cards in hand for our opponent are unknown cards, I do believe. Thought Erasure, that's a nice pickup for sure. So let's cast it, see if it resolves. Certainly might not. Wow, okay, so here's a burn package. Wasn't really expecting that. I think we keep this Nicol Bolas on top of our library. And yep, just gonna go ahead and play out this Disinformation campaign, even though it's just a mountain in our opponent's hand. And I like going for the Dream Eater end of turn. Maybe our opponent picks something up. We'll see. We'll probably see shortly. The reason why I like doing it end of turn is if we bounce the creature our opponent has, we can then make our opponent discard that creature. So I'm going to keep the Doom Whisperer on top there. And pretty hard to see how our opponent gets out of this. Let's see what this is going to be. Oh, it's a risk factor. Well, that's actually quite annoying. I think we just take the 4. Do we take 4 damage here? It feels like that's the play. Maybe we don't. This is weird. Because we have multiple discard spells. Yeah, I think we just take 4 damage. Our opponent may risk factor again, though, while we're tapped out. And this time, I think we let our opponent draw the cards. Because we have these discard spells. It definitely doesn't feel great, though, especially if our opponent drew into another risk factor, for example. But we have some pressure going, so that's good. Goblin Electromancer. See what else is... Okay, just 2 Electromancers. We can definitely deal with that. Could have been way, way worse. And I think we just kill those Electromancers now. Gaining life seems really good at the moment. Yeah, let's just get rid of those. We'll pass. Sweet. The game ended up taking a weird turn with that risk factor and those burn spells, but ended up being okay. I do think we want cards like Duress and Negate here. Taking out Ritual of Soot and Golden Demise. Our opponent doesn't have that many creatures. Same with the Eldest Reborn. I don't think that's the fight we're going for in this matchup. Angrath is a possible card we could bring in. It's another discard, but I don't think we need it. Dream Eater seems like a card we could go down on. Yeah, I like this. Still keeping in some creature removal. We saw some creatures. So I think we're supposed to keep in at least some amount of that stuff. This hand, we definitely just have to mulligan. Ugh. Man. I guess I'll try this. Doesn't feel good, but we do have that Steam Vents on top. So that's nice. Sometimes I'll keep 1-land hands on 6. I feel like if we draw our lands, we have a pretty good hand, so that's what I'm keeping. Like, we have a counterspell. We have the Chemister's Insight, a really good form of card advantage. Discarding a Radical Idea. off that chart a course is what our opponent's doing. So that means they probably have a better hand than last game, more spells to work with. I think we can safely assume that. I'm going to let the op resolve. Potentially we could want to counter the radical idea. Or even this opt. Yeah, I'm going to counter it. I think we really want to make sure we hit our next land drop. The Disinformation campaign, though, yeah, I think we just put that in the graveyard. We just want to land. Okay, well, we're just gonna take 4. We're at a high enough life total where we're not gonna be letting our opponent draw cards off the risk factor. And we did draw a land. That's what we were looking for. So I'm gonna play out the Nicol Bolas as our threat. See what our opponent discards off of it. And it's not an easy card to deal with for a deck with a bunch of 2 and 3 damage burn. Looks like they are going to pitch a Lightning Strike. And there's Electrostatic Field, but we do have Vraska's Contempt in hand to deal with that card. And I think we probably do want to just get it off the battlefield and keep our life total high. By keeping ourselves at a high life total, we make the burn plan much less threatening, which is a big deal. And we're happy to get the turn back for sure. Duress is a good find. I think we want to cast the Duress. Our opponent does have risk factor in the graveyard, I believe. So it'll be interesting to see what our opponent does if they want to respond to our Duress. It looks like they will negate, which, you know what, I'm fine with letting that happen because we also have a negate at the ready. And so this chart, of course, seems like a good card to negate, or to at least try to negate. And it seems like our opponent just doesn't have an answer for Nicol Bolas. Just straight up is going to be, I mean, this can go the distance. Like, maybe they have multiple burn spells, like a lightning strike and a shock, but that we're happy if that happens. We're not going to be allowing our opponent to draw cards off risk factor. And now we can cast this Doom Whisperer because we have our 5th land. So things are looking quite good. And once the Doom Whisperer actually enters the battlefield, I think, yep. On the draw, we have a hand that is borderline, I think, but I'm going to keep it, hoping to draw some lands. Game 1, we don't know what the matchup is. Is it Guildgate? Okay, so if our opponent's on control, then this hand actually is worse than we would like it to be. We do have this turn 2 Moment of Craving. Okay, so Runaway Steamkin. So it looks like some sort of Izzet strategy. We did draw land, so that's good. We can use the moment. Seems like a pretty straightforward play to just kill the Runaway Steamkin before it gets out of hand. And now we get to have Sinister Sabotage available to us. And we really want to use it, because we want to be able to sculpt our draw to hit our land drops. But it looks like our opponent's not playing anything. So that's unfortunate. Our opponent's just passing the turn. That's weird. Okay. They did play a land. That makes more sense. Weird game here. We're being mana screwed in some sort of control mirror. It's not great. I'm going to try to counter this. Chemister's Insight. Looks like that's not going to work out. But hey, at least we don't have to discard a card, right? I think I'm just going to try to slam the Eldest Reborn. It's probably not going to work, but we'll give it a shot. Oh, it did work. Sweet. And our opponent didn't jumpstart the Chemister's Insight. That's a little bit odd to me. Ooh, okay, so our opponent discarded a Fight with Fire. Well, let's try to land another whammy in Doom Whisperer. Looks like maybe it's not gonna... Nope, didn't resolve. Sometimes if your opponent doesn't jumpstart, it's easy to wonder, hey, are they just forgetting about that option? And I don't really know if that's something that's being forgotten here. Unfortunately, we don't have anything great to bring back with the Eldest Reborn, but what we can do is go for a Moment of Craving here. Yeah, I like that. Go for a Moment of Craving on the War Boss. And then we can potentially bring it back with the Eldest Reborn. So now we just play a second Eldest Reborn. And somehow, some way, we're in a reasonable spot in this game when we were about to discard to hand size on turn like 5 or 6 or whatever it was. That's 8 lands, so still not able to kick a fight with fire. So that's good. Although now our opponent is using that Chemister's Insights. That makes sense. Oh, Crackling Drake. Yep, that's good. That's a good card. Well, I think I'm just gonna Vraska's Contempt away the Drake. It's not a card we're really interested in bouncing. Risk factor hitting the graveyard on our opponent's side. We're at a healthy life total, so that's good. Oof. The Drakes keep coming. Well, I think we're getting this Legion War boss. I like just running out the Dream Eater, actually. I mean, we could try to crack the Memorial. I'm just going to play Dream Eater. Well, that didn't work. And now, unfortunately, it looks like we are going to get hit by this Crackling Drake, and it's just a huge flyer. We cannot Ritual of Soot it. Okay. I'm just going to play out the campaign. Dying to a Crackling Drake does not feel particularly good. That's for sure. Well, we're cracking. I'm just going to crack it now. Oh, I paid one too many for it. Whatever. We'll crack this. Still no answer to the Drake. And it looks like maybe a fight with fire. Yep. Okay. Cool. You got it. We stumbled, and then we got back into the game, and then it was that one Crackling Drake that ended up doing us in. So we want to keep removal that can deal with the Crackling Drake, but we don't want cards like Golden Demise or Ritual of Soot. We saw the Rituals of Soot just rotting away in our hand that game. Dream Eater also isn't great. It's pretty expensive, and it dies to Lightning Strike. Rather have threats like the Eldest Reborn and Angrath are both decent. Thief of Sanity is a card we I think we want some of, for sure. Duress and Negate are also reasonable, as is Disdainful Stroke. We've got a lot of reasonable options. Obviously, we can't play all of this stuff. Let's see. I mean, our opponent does have a lot of jump start. I think because we're on the play, we don't want the negates as much. The Moment of Cravings seem okay. Not great. And bottom line, we just have to cut down on some stuff. So I like Thief of Sanity a lot on the play. It's just a must-answer threat. Now we don't have any blue mana. I think I'm gonna try it though, as we do have Chemister's Insight. If we draw one blue source, this hand is quite nice. Yeah, because we can go like Thief of Sanity into Nicol Bolas, into, you know, drawing some cards. So it's a high upside hand, and that's why I'm keeping it. Hopefully we don't get mana screwed in the same fashion that we did in the last game. Honestly, the mana base isn't as bad as these hands have seemed. Okay, well, there we go. So we're set up with the Thief. Now it could die. Could die or get countered. Okay, well, it's in play. So maybe our opponent has like a Fight with Fire to kill it. Who knows? Okay, Lava Coil. Yeah, that one will do it. So I think here we just go ahead and get Nicol Bolas out as our 4-mana play. And all of the discard stuff is relevant because of the jump start that our opponent has access to. I think I'm going to cast the Discovery. See if we can hit a blue land off of it. Oh, we do. And a Duress. I don't think we need another Duress. I'm just going to hold up the counterspell. Pretty happy to take damage from Risk Factor right now. Like, it's not going to kill us. It wasn't what ended up doing us in the last game. So overall, just not that scared of it. And now we have a good opportunity to actually cast our Duress. Okay. Disdainful Stroke, Syncopate, Rekindling Phoenix in hand. Well, I think we take the Syncopate. We don't want our Chemister's Insight to get syncopated specifically, because then we wouldn't be able to jumpstart it. Rekindling Phoenix is an interesting sideboard card. It does block Nicol Bolas, so that is relevant for sure. I think I'm going to go, well, we know about the Disdainful Stroke, so I like just passing here rather than running the Insight into that counterspell. Legion Warboss, yeah, I think that's fine. That doesn't answer our threat. So we can afford to take a little damage from it. Yeah, it looks like our opponent's not going to fight. But we're just going to hold up our Sinister Sabotage and make sure this Bolas goes the distance. Looks like maybe our opponent's going for risk factor. We can definitely take 4. And then another 4 from the War Boss. Or 5, rather. We're taking 5 here down to 6. But now, even if our opponent top decked like a Lava Coil or a Fight with Fire, it just wouldn't be enough. Because we have the counterspell. Okay, well, that game felt much better than the first one. I definitely like having the Dream Eaters in the sideboard. They're just a little bit too slow. The Thieves, I think we want all of our Moment of Cravings for the War Boss on the draw, which may mean we just cut the Thief of Sanities. Yeah. Well, I guess we have room for one more card. Disdainful Stroke seems okay because it counters the Crackling Drake. And that's a card that is really annoying. I mean, it pretty much single-handedly won our opponent the first game. So I think I'm gonna go with 1 Disdainful Stroke. Because Crackling Drake is the card I think we care about the most, assuming that we don't just get like run over by some sort of explosive draw and we don't have like a Moment of Craving or anything like that. This is fine. I think we just take things slow. I mean, we could shock here just to duress, but I don't think it's worth the 2 damage. Like, we know that our opponent has these burn spells in their deck. And so that's why I lean towards not doing it. Is this going to be a runaway Steamkin? Yes, it is. Well, now I think we do want to thought Erasure our opponent. Wow, that's a really good hand. We get to take a War Boss, but our opponent still has another runaway Steamkin, a Rel. Yeah, this is just a great hand. So the runaway Steamkins are definitely issues. So we're going to have to try to set up Vraska's Contempt to try to answer them. Most likely. Drowned Catacombs, not a bad draw. We could just play out a campaign. Yeah, I like that. Just forcing our opponent to discard cards is valuable. And we get to draw. So we're banking on dealing with the runaway Steamkins. There's a moment of craving. Our opponent pitched Lava Coil, so we still know what those 2 cards left in our opponent's hand are. So one play I like, I think we want to duress. We can duress away the Rel. Because we certainly cannot afford to let that come down on the next turn. And then Moment of Craving, the bigger runaway Steamkin, and now we're not under nearly as much pressure. All our opponent has is that Disdainful Stroke. I'm going to play the land just to play around Spell Pierce and then run out the Disinformation campaign. And our opponent actually did discard that Disdainful Stroke. So we don't know what that last card is. But we're definitely hoping to draw gas from this point onward. Okay. yeah, that's a pretty good card. I think we just play it. Okay, that makes sense. Our opponent just drew another Disdainful Stroke at some point. Ooh, what's this gonna be? Ah, wow. That's pretty absurd. Ral is... that's a tough Magic card to answer. We can hope that our opponent, found only a land off of it. We do have Vraska's Contempt to get rid of it. But unfortunately, we are flooding out pretty badly now. So for sure going to get it off the battlefield. That's clear. We would love to have a card that could get those Disinformation campaigns back to our hand, like a Sinister Sabotage or a Thought Erasure. Okay, so no additional threat. And we found the Eldest Reborn. I think we just go for it. I mean, our opponent certainly might have a counterspell for it, but it's a very high upside play. Oh, sweet. It's in there. Wasn't really expecting it to resolve, but it did. Maybe our opponent has like a Chemister's Insight here. Nope. Interesting. Could be just removal spells or in lands. So this is good news. Let's see what our opponent... I mean, our opponent's going down to only one card. Oh, Izzet. Yep. That mana base will hurt you. 4 islands in play. That's funny. And they actually... our opponent discarded a mountain at some point. Gotta wonder about that land sequencing. Because if that Izzet was on the battlefield... whew. Well, actually, it may be on the battlefield, but not on our opponent's side of the board. I think we want to take it... we can take it with the Eldest Reborn. Yeah, going for it. And we drew a Duress. So now we're just kind of going off. Oh, wow. So there's a Izzet that our opponent can't cast in hand. Well, I guess I'm just going to draw a card off this Moment of Craving. Wasn't really thinking about that, or else I wouldn't have already played my land, but seems right to make that play. Oh! Our opponent found the red source. Now we have dueling Izzets. Yes, you are seeing this correctly. There is a Izzet on both sides of the battlefield. So the question is, do we want to attack? If we attack and put our opponent at 12, I think that benefits us. I mean, it's pretty close. I'm going to go for the attack. No blocks. Okay. Well, the race is on with these Izzets. Our opponent can hit us Then we hit our opponent back. We have the Sinister Sabotage. Oh wow, our opponent pinged our Izzet and then drew Lava Coil. That's unfortunate. Well, I think we just start trying to ping our opponent. Even though we're both going to get to draw multiple cards here off these triggers. Do we want the Disdainful Stroke? I think so. It seems better than a random card. That Lava Coil was pretty absurd. Our opponent found that. So our opponent can bring us down to 8, which it looks like they will be doing. But now we're going to get the turn back, so that's good. And we found a Ral Izzet of our own. With plenty of instants and sorceries in the graveyard to go along with it. So we have access to 11 lands. I think we want to play out our Disinformation campaign. At least one to start. And remember, Izzet only triggers off instants and sorceries. Unfortunately, Cast Down does not deal with Izzet. Yeah, I think we play out another campaign. And that way we can set up the Planeswalker. Ooh, there's an Angrath. Is that just lethal? I think it is. I think we just go attack Angrath plus and just have it. Yeah. Wow. Crazy game here. But it looks like our Izzet ultimately is going to take this one down. And that's going to be the match. Okay, so we are going to play 6 lands. That's a lot of lands. But I'm still going to keep, because we have Thought Erasure. And so we can Surveil, and we can make our opponent discard a card. And we've got all 3 of our colors. Certainly not the perfect hand by any means. We would love to have another spell or 2, but can't have everything. So yeah, I think it's fine to keep this. Overgrown Tomb. Okay, so it looks like black-green. Black-green is very popular right now. I guess we'll see in a moment if it is indeed green-black, and it is. And this hand is pretty strong. Druid of the Cowl, Fine Broker, Carnage Tyrant. Lots of good stuff here. I think we take the Fine Broker and hope to be able to deal with that Carnage Tyrant later on. I'm going to put the Chemister's Insight in the graveyard because we can jumpstart it. So there's the Druid. We'll see if our opponent picked up another threat here. Of course, we're hoping that that's not the case. Oh, that's just dirty. Golgari Fine Broker for a Fine Broker. That's worst case scenario for us. And to add to our issues, we just drew a Golden Demise, which is really not very good here. So yeah, I mean that was not what we wanted our opponent to draw. Well, I guess we're gonna Chemister's Insight. What do we pitch? Do we pitch this Golden Demise? Probably just a land. Okay. Well, we know that our opponent has Carnage Tyrant in their hand, unfortunately. I'm going to play out Disinformation campaign, I think. The other option is play the Eldest Reborn. But then our opponent probably just sacrifices the Fine Broker and brings it back, which doesn't seem great for us. So let's go with the campaign. Ritual of Soot. That's an interesting card. Not really what we wanted. I think we just kill off the Druid so that our opponent can't drop a Carnage Tyrant this turn. Yep. We'll see what that yep, Druid of the Cowl. So it looks like next turn is going to be that Carnage Tyrant. Most likely, I should say. Most likely. So we could play the Eldest Reborn. Or just Doom Whisper, I think is a very reasonable choice. I guess I'm going to go with Doom Whisper. If our opponent has another Chupacabra, then this play is going to look absolutely terrible. Don't do it. What's it gonna be? I mean, if it gets Assassin's Trophied, it's not the end of the world. Contempt, ugh. Yeah, I'm not even gonna surveil because we're just at such a low life total. I think we just have to let that happen. Well, we can play Nicol Bolas to try to block. That seems okay. I think that's what I'll do. We desperately need something that can block a Golgari Finebroker here. And there goes Druid of the Cowl. Uh-oh. Is this going to be Carnage Tyrant time? Yep. And I think we're probably not beating that. We drew a Contempt. Yep, does not look good here. I'm just gonna pass and Contempt away a Finebroker. And to add insult, there's Vraska. That's gonna do it. Yep, good enough. Really, it was that second Golgari Finebroker that really just did us in that game. So in terms of sideboarding for the matchup, I'm going to take out the Moment of Cravings and the Golden Demise and the Ritual of Soot. I do think Eldest Reborn is generally pretty solid. And we want our strokes and at least some Thief of Sanities, I think. Contempt is okay, but I think we want to just go max Thief of Sanity when on the play. Dream Eater is a flex slot. All right. So we have a lot of powerful 3-mana stuff like the Campaign and the Thief. So we're hoping to get one of those cards down on turn 3, which we can with this hand. So, yep, definitely a better hand than the last one. Ravenous Chupacabra can't answer Thief unless our opponent has like a Druid, but we can cast down a Druid. But we also just drew Thought Erasure, so I think we cast that. Let's see what our opponent's got. Seeker's Squire, Jadelight Ranger, Carnage Tyrant, Vivian Reed. A lot of stuff here. A lot of interesting cards. Pretty good hand. Don't think we take the Seeker's Squire. It could just be Jadelight Ranger because it's a value creature. Like, there's no great take here, right? Contempt is also an option. I think I'll just take the Jadelight. Yeah, I think we top that Thief of Sanity because now we have insurance against that Contempt. So we're hoping that our opponent plays Secret Squire, but then doesn't have a turn 3 play. We'll see what the Explorer is. It's a forest. So it looks like our opponent's mana situation is pretty good. But we're hoping that we should get in one hit, at least, with the Thief. It did find another Secret Squire, okay. Vraska. Will that stay? Yep, that's going to stay on top. Interesting. So we can start getting in hits with the Thief, and that's really important. I think we'll take our own Vraska. How does that sound? And now there is a choice to be made what to follow up with between Nicol Bolas and just another Thief of Sanity. I think I like just playing another Thief out. Like, our opponent has to Contempt one, and then we still have another one. And yes, they can try to answer it with cards like Vivian Reed, but if we're all the while getting to exile stuff from our opponent's library, yeah, I think this is going well for us, even though our opponent has a good draw. We can actually just cast this Vraska next turn. And there's a Duress. Duress and Druid of the Cowl. I think we want Duress. Yeah, let's take the Duress. And let's go ahead and cast the Nicol Bolas and then cast this Duress. Yeah, I like that. Probably going to just take away the Vivian Reed, most likely. But we're really just picking apart our opponent's hand. So it's a Vivian Reed, and that, what is that, a Fine Finality? That's actually kind of pretty relevant, that our opponent could cast that and wipe the board. But I think we just take the Vivian Reed, because even if that does happen, we'll already have like a Vraska in play by that point. Okay, fine for Carnage Tyrant and a Chupacabra. That's fine. Our opponent can't cast either of those right now. Oh, also an Assassin's Trophy. Now it makes sense. Interesting choice as to which creature to target. I guess their plan is to Chupacabra the Thief. But we're getting in at least another hit. That's a Carnage Tyrant. Yep, we'll take it. And I think we play Vraska first and then Carnage Tyrant next turn. I mean, it's close, but yeah, I think I'm going to go do it that way. So our opponent's now attacking our Vraska. We could block. Blocking seems pretty reasonable. Well, I'll take it. That's a good draw in Chemister's Insight. I do think we want to start to attack. And this is going fairly well at this stage. Our opponent does have that Carnage Tyrant, but I mean, if we're trading Carnage Tyrants, that should benefit our side. Now Disinformation Campaign, we can get rid of that last card. And it was a duress. Might as well get the Eldest Reborn into play also. And it looks like that's going to be enough. So we are going to go to game 3. But game 3 is tough. It's always tough when you're on the draw against a really powerful standard deck like Black-Green for a decider. I think our configuration is pretty good, though. So, yep, let's run it back. Let's go for it. I mean, the Thief of Sanities, you saw that game, how high upside the card is. Now, if it dies immediately to a Chupacabra, then it does look a lot worse. I mean, that's the game we're playing, though. Okay, so this hand is pretty solid. Thought Erasure is really nice to just kind of know what's going on in a game. Like, figure out how to navigate. We drew Thief of Sanity. This is interesting now. We have a decision. I think we just kill off this Druid. But it's a close call. I'm going to kill the Druid, though, to try to stop our opponent from ramping. That makes sense. So now it becomes a question of, does our opponent have removal? We drew a Thought Erasure, so we can cast that. But that means we're not jamming the Thief of Sanity this turn. It's a close call. I'm going to go Thief. If our opponent hits us with a Ravenous Chupacabra, it's going to feel bad. It's going to feel bad, but it's a gamble. Yep. Take 2, and is it Chupacabra time? Yep. That sucks. That does suck. We get the Carnage Tyrant. We get to keep this Drowned Catacombs on top of our library. So all is not lost. Fine Broker, yeah, that's really good. That gets our opponent back that Carnage Tyrant. That's brutal. We can play Nicol Bolas, so yep, I think we're locked into that play. So now our opponent probably pitches the land and hopes to draw land. If they do draw land and slam that Carnage Tyrant. Looks like Secret Squire, though. Duress, I would expect that goes to the graveyard. Yep. Well, I'm going to start attacking with our Nicol Bolas because we can't really beat that Carnage Tyrant once it comes down, so we're hoping that our opponent just kind of misses on lands. And we can use the Vraska's Contempt to not... The Vraska's Contempts on these creatures to not die. That's our game plan. It's not a good one, but it's a plan. Okay, another Seeker Squire. This time our opponent does find the land. Ooh, but we found a campaign. That's great. So we can use that to make our opponent discard the Carnage Tyrant. They can use a Memorial, though, to get back the Carnage Tyrant. So I think we still get in with our Nicol Bolas. And just pass back. This is close. Looks like the Memorial's getting sacrificed. So now if our opponent draws a land, it's rough. It's really rough. We're taking 5 down to 9, but I think this race, with the Dream Eater in hand, the Dream Eater is big. Looks like our opponent did not find a land, so let's see what it was that came off our opponent's, the top of our opponent's deck. Find. So Find is going to get Druid of the Cowl. But you know what? We actually just have lethal next turn with the Dream Eater. So I'm just going to pass here with the Dream Eater available, hoping that our opponent does play that Carnage Tyrant now. And it looks like that is going to be the match